And a good midday Thursday to you. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights Consulting. This weather video is driven by 802cars.com. It represents 802 Toyota, Twin Cities Subaru, and 802 Honda, all located off of Exit 7 on Interstate 89. The big takeaway here is this big eye undergoing an eye wall replacement now, and so that's filled in with a tighter concentric eye. And the other thing that's going on, interesting and related, of course, to Hurricane Dorian, which came from the islands here, Abaco and then Grand Bahama, and then took a track, and now it's headed sort of north-northeast. It's going to hug the coastline. The other thing that's taking place right now is a lot of tornadic thunderstorms spinning up a lot of supercell thunderstorm activity across coastal parts of North Carolina around the Wilmington area, and then especially into Morehead City. This is going to spread to the northeast as Dorian begins that track. And it also goes off of Cape Cod. It could produce some tropical storm force wind gusts before it kind of slides by Nova Scotia. Here's Hurricane Dorian, of course, and we'll be discussing this in the last part of this video. Right now we have a kind of a west-northwesterly or just about due west-to-east flow across the region, upper-level low that's situated in northeastern portions of Quebec, headed toward the Labrador coast, and still seeing the effects of that with a little bit of a weak trough working on through. We also have a surface area of higher pressure that's moved out of the Great Lakes and building in across the region, and that's giving us our pretty fabulous conditions we have on this day, Thursday, the pick of the week. And the next weather system upstream is crossing through parts of Minnesota into Wisconsin, the western Great Lakes, and this is the weather system that will also produce a little bit of shower activity for us on Friday. Nothing major, and then also a little bit on Saturday night, and then into Sunday. That's a separate weather system up here. This will be pulled south, and we have a kind of a cooler flow established right now coming in from the west-northwest overall, and Dorian is going to track pretty harmlessly out to our southeast. Again, tropical storm force winds are possible across some parts of Cape Cod. Most of this action is going to be to our east and then affecting the Canadian Maritimes. Okay, this is the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, and let's get it back here. This is Dorian. This is valid this morning at about 8 o'clock, and we're going to run the computer model. And this is where Dorian makes a little bit of landfall, it looks like, from very close to Wilmington, North Carolina, but a little further to the north and east up the coast near Cape Lookout, Morehead City, Pamlico Sound region, a little bit of a population center there. It looks like Dorian then crosses the area around Pamlico Sound and exits out somewhere north of Buxton, as it looks right now with the European track anyway, if that is correct. Some of the other models, of course, have Hurricane Dorian just a little bit off the coast, just a tiny bit further to the south. Needless to say, Dorian is not going to be a factor for us other than the fact that it will push in a little bit of precipitation across southeastern parts of New England, and then it's pretty much out of here. Looking at the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasts, the Euro model. And then we have a little bit of an issue with some rain showers, so I'm going to back that up just a bit. And there's really not an issue, but here we go. So you can see this weak weather system is kind of being sheared out by the jet stream with that sort of west and northwesterly flow. And it gets in here, it looks like, during the afternoon on Friday. That's valid at about 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. A little bit of shower activity across mainly northern areas of Vermont. And then it kind of gets wiped out. This is valid 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, and you can see Dorian flying by. Another little batch of rain shower activity kind of works through, unfortunately, on Sunday, making things a little bit wetter. And then by the time we hit Monday, we have an area of higher pressure. It's very weak, but it's going to be pushing on in and bringing us 2 dry days, the best project weather days in the near future other than what we're seeing today, Thursday. That's going to happen, it looks like, on Monday and as well as Tuesday. And following, looks like a little bit of moisture working on in, and little wetter conditions for the middle part of the week, it looks like, once we get into Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And then another area of higher pressure, 1031 hectopascal. That's a little bit stronger, and typically when you see a stronger area of higher pressure associated with these air masses coming out of Canada, it's slightly more dense air. Once these areas of higher pressure kind of move on out, what ends up happening is we have a little better chance to see some stronger wind gusts, setting up any kind of gradient wind issues. And 1031 hectopascal high pressure centered over Plymouth, New Hampshire. you can see that the gradients is going to probably tighten up just a little bit. And this could be maybe a gradient wind issue. We're talking way around the corner here, not to the about the morning of the 15th of September. That would be about a week from this coming Friday. So looking at precipitable water, it's always kind of interesting to see how this shapes up and the flow and fluid dynamics. So we have Dorian there with the high precipitable water. It looks like about 5 standard deviations, concentrations of moisture going through the outer banks of North Carolina to be expected. A little bit of the slightly more moist air mass kind of cuts across parts of New England. Meanwhile, to the west, we have these fast-moving, sort of sheared-out weather systems that will be moving into Vermont. Really not a huge deal in terms of moisture. So Dorian goes off the coast. You can see it affects parts of eastern Massachusetts, southeastern New England, and so forth, and then heading toward Nova Scotia. And what ends up happening, we have basically neutral PWatts. This is precipitable water. It's a really good measurement or metric for looking at the moisture levels and in terms of standard deviation sigma. So we're looking at generally drier than normal conditions once we get into definitely Sunday night, and then certainly on Monday and Tuesday of next week, as we have a little bit of a break and some good project weather occurring. Our next big weather sort of gravy train is going to be moving in. You can see the extra moisture coming in across the Great Lakes and working in from the Ohio River Valley. And that'll hit us along about Tuesday night into Wednesday with some heavier showers. There is a potential maybe for some thunderstorm activity at that point in time, but that's a long ways around the corner. Beyond that point, looks like a much cooler air mass, also much drier air mass is going to drop in from Canada once again, and that's setting up for what could be late next week and into the weekend of next week. Looking at the GFS ensemble, we can see a little bit of precipitation chances once we get into Friday afternoon, and then just beyond that into Sunday. The total QPF is relatively minuscule, so we're not really looking at a whole lot in the way of precipitation over the course of the next 5 to 7 days. Looking at 2-meter temperature, this is the way things are setting up. A little bit of a drop-off, a little cool-down as we get into this weekend. But we have temperatures basically in that sort of 65 to 70 degree realm, pretty much statewide. Dew points, not a whole lot to see here. Relatively comfortable conditions all around, and even a little more crispy and drier once we get into the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. We'll have to watch out for any kind of frosty situations that could be developing. And looking at the quantified precipitation forecast, QPF for the next 7 days from the Weather Prediction Center, you can see really Dorian's effect off the South Carolina coast and a little bit in the interior, eastern, northern North Carolina, a little bit of southeastern Virginia and so forth, and then off the coast. For us, we're looking at nothing to write home about. Over the course of the next 5 days, the maximum temperatures will be running anywhere from around 3 to 6 degrees below normal. And about 3 days later, maybe a little bit of a warm-up, 3 to 6 degrees in general, though. This is Dorian from the 11 a.m. Update today, Thursday, the 5th of September. And again, the track taking it off the coast. We have one disturbance that's of no issue. Another disturbance we'll probably need to watch at this lower latitude. And we have Tropical Storm Gabriel, which is going to track something like this and make a right turn out to sea. There's another system that's not too far from the Cabo Verde Islands, and about a 10% chance for cyclone formation. Back to Dorian. This is the weather system here, a 30% chance, and then we have this easterly wave that's emerged off the west coast of Africa, heading westward, and this is another one that's going to be working into the central part of the Atlantic. So far, so good. We'll have to keep a close eye on anything coming off of West Africa in these lower latitudes that could curve up the coast, of course. Here's our temperatures showing us the current anomalous chill that's across a good portion of eastern Canada that extends down into, it looks like, the Ohio Valley and across the northeast U.S., and that's what we're experiencing currently right now. Taking a look at sea surface temperatures, the anomaly, you can see just how warm the Atlantic is, and of course the Pacific is even warmer. A couple cold spots. This one seems to have warmed up just a little bit. southeast, well southeast of Greenland. And the other one is up in the North Pacific here. That's in the Gulf of Alaska. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.